Okay. We start from abdominal cavity or abdominal wall.
Okay.
Here, if you look at this picture, here is abdominal wall. Do you remember we went through the ribs and the rib cage?
Yes.
All the ribs belong to the thoracic wall.
Yeah.
Yeah? So till here is thorax.
No. Yes.
No. Yes or no?
Till 10?
Touch the end of the ribs in your body.
Yeah.
Are you in thorax or in abdomen?
In abdomen.
Very good, you're in abdomen. So somewhere at the level of rib 6 or 7 here.
Yes.
It starts abdominal wall.
Okay.
Because do you know diaphragm from inside attached to the 5th and 6th rib and separate thoracic cavity from abdominal cavity.
Yes.
So here is abdominal wall. If you look at the cavity, it means inside here, it's between diaphragm and pelvic inlet. What does it mean? If you look at the abdominal cavity, it is separated from thoracic cavity by diaphragm. Look. So do you see here is abdominal cavity. It is separated from thoracic cavity by diaphragm, but there is nothing to separate abdominal and pelvic cavity. So abdominal cavity is continued to the pelvic cavity.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
So let's talk about borders of the cavity. It's located between diaphragm and the entrance of pelvic is called pelvic inlet.
Okay.
How is it separated from thoracic cavity?
Diaphragm.
How is it separated from pelvic cavity?
Pelvic inlet.
It's not separated, it's continued to the pelvic cavity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How is it covered anteriorly and laterally?
Anteriorly the abdominal wall.
Very good. So we have the muscles, aponeurosis of muscles, and we have rib cage, right?
Yes.
So they're anteriorly and laterally. And what do we have posteriorly?
We have the vertebral column.
Which vertebrae?
The cervical. The lumbar.
Yeah, lumbar vertebrae is mainly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We divide the abdominal wall into different regions. Let me find the name of the picture in the book. It should be in the end, I think. Okay. Here. Have you talked about the regions in the practice?
No, she said only the projections of the organs only.
What do you mean by projections? Like where they are?
Yes.
Okay. So look at here. We divide the abdominal cavity or abdominal wall into different regions. Why? To describe the location of the organs. So if you know the regions, you can describe the location of the organ. So you can say each organ where it is in which region.
Okay.
We need 9 regions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So how many lines do we need for 9 regions?
4.
4 lines. 2 vertical or sagittal and 2 transverse or horizontal line, right?
Right.
What are our vertical lines? Look here, if you draw a line from middle of clavicle, how do we call this line?
Mid-clavicular line.
Mid-clavicular line. This is 9 centimeter away from midline, from middle of sternum. Mid-clavicular line. So you can draw 2 mid-clavicular line. Okay, this can be your vertical line. You can also draw, do you see here, do you know what is this ligament? Inguinal ligament. If you draw a line from middle of inguinal ligament and go up, this is called mid-inguinal line. If you choose mid-clavicular line on one side, on the other side it should also be mid-clavicular. Or instead of mid-clavicular, you can draw mid-inguinal on both sides. So you have one vertical line which you have 2 possibilities. Did you understand or not?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
So where is the attachment of inguinal ligament? It's from anterior superior iliac spine. Do you remember this? Anterior superior iliac spine.
Yes.
To the superior edge of pubic symphysis.
Yes.
So you should know attachment of inguinal ligament from anterior superior iliac spine to pubic symphysis. And mid-inguinal line is a line from middle of inguinal ligament. So you can draw either mid-inguinal on both sides or mid-clavicular on both sides. This is our vertical lines. What are our horizontal lines? Again, we have different possibilities, okay? We can draw subcostal. What is subcostal? Do you see here the 10th costal cartilage?
Yes, it's subcostal.
Yeah, so if you draw a line which passes from inferior border of 10th costal cartilage, this line, this is called subcostal. Yeah?
Yes.
Then, so this is one line. You can draw transtubercular line, tubercle. Do you remember iliac tubercle?
Yes.
If you draw a line that passes through iliac tubercle here, this is called transtubercular. Okay? So the upper one is subcostal, the lower one is transtubercular or intertubercular. When you draw transtubercular here in the middle, it's at the level of L5, the 5th lumbar vertebrae. Okay? So instead of these 2, we can choose 2 other horizontal lines. For example, transpyloric. Pylorus. Do you know what is pylorus?
No.
You know, you learn later. After a stomach here, this part is called pyloric part of a stomach. How do you draw this line? If you choose between superior border of manubrium, somewhere here is manubrium, right?
Yes.
And then here you have pubic symphysis.
Yes.
No. So between manubrium and pubic symphysis, you draw a line between these 2. It gives you almost this line. Yeah?
Yes.
And because this line is at the level of pyloric part of the stomach, it's called transpyloric. It's at the level of L1, first lumbar vertebra. If you have transpyloric, then lower down you can have another line. It's called interspinous. If you connect the 2 anterior superior iliac spine between the 2 spines, it's called interspinous. So we have 9 regions. For 9 regions, we have 4 lines. 2 vertical, 2 horizontal. What can be our vertical lines?
Vertical lines, mid-clavicle
Or
mid-inguinal.
Inguinal.
Yes.
So mid-clavicular. So if you choose mid-clavicular on both sides, it should be mid-clavicular.
Yes.
If you choose mid-inguinal on both sides, it should be mid-inguinal. Okay?
Yes.
And you should know what does it mean mid-clavicular from middle of clavicle down. It's 9 centimeter away from sternum. Mid-inguinal is midpoint of inguinal ligament, which is from anterior superior iliac spine to pubic symphysis. What can be our horizontal lines?
Horizontal line, the subcostal.
Yeah, how do you draw subcostal?
We go the inferior border of the 10th rib.
10th costal cartilage and rib, yeah? So this
yeah.
is subcostal, then lower one?
Lower one from the tubercle, intertubercle.
Yeah. Iliac tubercle. So
yes.
this is intertubercular. It's at the level of
yes.
L5. Somewhere here is L5. What can be the other transverse lines?
The other one is the interpyloric line.
Transpyloric.
Transpyloric. And
how do you draw transpyloric?
We have to draw a line from the manubrium to the pubic symphysis.
Not draw a line. If you consider manubrium and pubic symphysis between these two, so between these two is somewhere here.
Yes.
And which is at the level of L1.
L1. Yeah.
And here, what is the lower one?
The transverse tubercle. Or intertubercle.
Interspinous.
Interspinous.
From the anterior superior iliac spine, so you connect the two spine together.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Abdullah.
Yeah.
You know, it's much more better that every time you study, I ask you questions. Because then you might get the same questions in the exam, you know?
Yeah.
For the thorax, you didn't prepare, so we didn't have time. So every time from now, so in the next lesson, I ask you this lesson.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So now you get 9 regions. Do you see?
Yes.
This right one is called right hypochondric region.
Okay.
This is called
left hypochondric.
Left hypochondric region. This is called right lumbar. This is called
left lumbar.
Left lumbar. Here it's called right inguinal, or here it says iliac. In your book it says inguinal. And this is called
inguinal. Left inguinal.
Left inguinal. So what about in the middle? In the middle we have epigastric, umbilical. Do you know what is umbilicus?
Yeah.
Okay, umbilical or mesogastric.
Okay.
Pubic or hypogastric.
Okay.
So we have 9 regions: hypochondric, lumbar, inguinal on each side, right and left. In the middle, epigastric, mesogastric, hypogastric, or epigastric, umbilical, pubic. They're in the middle. Okay, then you can see the organs. Let's see almost, okay? Not exactly, but almost. What is this organ in the right side? Liver. So in which regions can you see liver? Here,
in both epigastric and right hypochondric region.
In right hypochondric, epigastric, mainly it is in epigastric. And do you see a small part of it? It's in?
And the right lumbar region.
Lumbar, good. What about this one? It's a stomach. Where do you see stomach? It's here and here when it is empty.
Yeah, left hypochondric region and epigastric region.
Hypochondric and epigastric. When it is full, it goes a bit below also to umbilical region. Okay. What is this large intestine?
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah.
It is in the right inguinal, goes up into right lumbar, then into umbilical, then down to left lumbar, left inguinal, and ends into pubic region. It goes like that, ding, 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 and but then here.
Can we say like part of it in the epigastric region?
A small part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about kidneys? Where are the kidneys?
Kidney, they are like posterior.
Yeah, but in which region?
I think kidney will be left lumbar and right
just
lumbar.
Left, yeah, very good. So the kidneys are here in the left and right lumbar. Where is the spleen?
I don't know.
Spleen is here in the left hypochondric. Okay. So here up we have in the right side liver, here, then we have a stomach. In the left side, we have a spleen. These are unpaired organ. You just have one.
Yes. Where is
And you have kidneys here in the right and left lumbar region.
Okay.
Okay.
Pancreas.
For more,
Pancreas.
Pancreas, it's behind the stomach.
Okay.
Okay. We will go through organs one by one, but for more general descriptions, we divide these are the lines. Do you see? Later you should look at this picture in your book. Do you see?
Yes, yes.
This is at the level of L1. This is transpyloric.
Okay.
We said we choose a line between manubrium and symphysis and draw in the middle. And because it passed at the level of pyloric part of the stomach, it's called transpyloric. And do you see it's at the level of L1?
Yeah.
Intertubercular, between the two tubercles, iliac tubercle. Do you see it's at the lower border of L5?
Yes.
Interspinous, connect the two anterior superior iliac spine. So do you see, if you want to choose the transverse line, you can pick one from above, one from below.
All right.
Usually you pick these. Do you see they're like lines?
Yeah.
This is called transpyloric and
intertubercle.
Yeah. Or you can take subcostal and interspinous together.
Yeah.
Okay. For more general descriptions, we divide the abdominal wall into 4 regions. Look, let me find here. Into 4 regions. For 4 regions, how many lines do we need?
2.
So we have 4 quadrants, right? We need 2 lines. We have one in the middle. It's called median plane, which gives you right and left side, and we have transumbilical. Here you have umbilicus. If you draw a line in the middle of umbilicus, it's called transumbilical.
Yes.
So we get 5 quadrant: upper right, upper left, lower right, lower left quadrants.
Yes.
This is for more general descriptions, okay?
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
So you should know the wall, the regions of the wall, okay?
All right.
Then let's go to the muscles. Muscles, they're anterolaterally in abdominal wall. Okay. What are the muscles? We have 5 pair muscles. They're on both sides.
Okay.
3 of them are flat muscles. 2 of them are vertical. They're vertical, like they go from up down.
Okay.
What are the flat muscles? They're in 3 layers. Do you see the first layer, which is cut?
Yes.
This is called external oblique muscle.
Yes.
If you look at the external oblique, it goes from superolaterally to inferomedially. It goes like that, superolateral to inferomedial. Okay, so it origins from 5th to 12th ribs, and when it goes inferomedially, it inserts to pubic tubercle, iliac crest, and here, do you see the middle, the white line is called linea alba. We talked about it. It inserts to linea alba, pubic tubercle, and iliac crest. Okay. What is the innervation of these muscles? Which nerves do we have here?
We have the intercostal.
Very good. Intercostal from T7 to T11. Yes. And what does this muscle do? It can flex and rotate the trunk.
Yes.
Okay. All of these muscles that we talk about, they have 2 parts. They have a muscular part, muscle, and they have aponeurosis part. Do you see these white fascia?
Yes.
They're the aponeurosis of the muscles. Okay. So anterolaterally, you have the muscles, but anteriorly, you just have aponeurosis of the muscles. Okay? So here, the first one is external oblique. How does it run?
External oblique, superior laterally to inferomedially.
Inferomedially. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. If you cut external oblique, then the next one is internal oblique muscle. This one originates from back. Okay, look. Here. Here on the back there is a fascia. We'll look at it later. It's called thoracolumbar fascia.
Okay.
Okay? The internal oblique originates from thoracolumbar fascia. What is here? Iliac crest. Yeah? And what is here? Inguinal ligament.
Yes.
And do you see it originates from inguinal ligament, iliac crest, and thoracolumbar fascia.
Okay.
It goes anteriorly, it comes here. It inserts to, this is white line, linea alba, and inserts to the ribs 10 to 12.
Okay.
Okay? What does it do? It compresses the abdominal viscera, and it also flex and rotate the trunk.
Okay.
It also has two layers. This is muscular part, which is anterolaterally, and this is aponeurotic part, which is anteriorly.
Okay.
Okay? So how do the fibers run? They run
laterally to supramedial.
exactly inferolaterally to superomedially. If you consider the fibers of external oblique and internal oblique, what's the degree between them?
90?
How did
90?
Very good, 90 degree, 90.
Yeah.
So one is superolaterally to inferomedially, one is inferolaterally to superomedially. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next layer. What is under internal oblique?
Transverse abdominal muscles.
Very good. We have transverse abdominis muscle here. So how do the fibers of transverse abdominis run? It's telling you.
Transverse.
Yeah,
Horizontal.
they go transverse.
Yes.
Look, do you see?
Yes.
So the fibers go horizontally, they go transverse.
Okay.
And what is the origin? It's originate from the costal cartilage of 7th to 12th ribs and inserts, so it goes horizontally to the linea alba.
Okay.
Okay? What does it do? It also compresses the abdominal viscera. Do you know where do we use the compression of abdominal viscera?
No.
During defecation.
Okay.
Do you know what is defecation?
No.
Like when you go to the toilet and you want to poo,
Yeah.
like you compress.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah? So you use these muscles.
Okay.
Okay. So it also has two parts. It has a muscular part which is laterally and aponeurosis part which is anteriorly. Yeah. So these three, they were flat muscles. Then we have two vertical muscles. Look, here you see a muscle which is called rectus abdominis. Rectus means straight.
Okay.
Okay, rectus abdominis. This rectus abdominis originates from pubic symphysis here
Yes.
and insert to the xiphoid process and the costal cartilage of 5th to 7th rib.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
So you have on both sides here and here. So all of these muscles are paired. You have on both sides. If you look at the rectus abdominis, is located in the midline. It's medially.
Yes.
The other muscles were laterally.
Yeah.
So in the middle, you just have rectus abdominis, and it runs vertically.
Yeah. Vertical.
This muscle is separate from white thin bands. Do you see these?
Yeah.
Into different parts. They're called tendinous intersection. So tendinous intersections, they divide the rectus abdominis into different segments.
Okay.
And usually we have 3 tendinous intersections. The first one is at the level of xiphoid process.
Okay.
The third one is at the level of umbilicus.
Okay.
Second one is between these two.
Okay.
And this muscle is wide superiorly and it gets narrow inferiorly.
Okay.
And do you know, like when the people have 6-pack,
Yeah.
it's because of this intersection. So the muscle part grow, but the tendinous part, it remains thin, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they get different packs.
Yeah.
And it's because of shape of the muscle that here is wide, and when it goes down, it gets narrow.
Okay.
Okay, so this is rectus abdominis, and you have in the middle on both sides. Then, do you see the line here on each side of rectus abdominis, this white line?
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
If you draw this line, this is called semilunar line.
Semilunar line. Okay.
Yeah, and if a person, it's very muscular. Let me find a picture. Like, for example, bodybuilders, okay?
Yeah.
When you want to draw the vertical lines, do you remember the vertical lines?
Yeah.
If the person is really muscular and bodybuilder, here you can see a line, not for example in this person, but almost. Do you see here the
Yeah.
line?
Yes.
It's to the lateral part of rectus abdominis. It's a shallow groove. It's 5 to 8 centimeters from midline. So if you draw this is called semilunar line. This can be also one of the vertical lines.
Okay.
Okay?
Alright.
So, what is the next muscle? Do you see here number 7?
Yes.
Here.
Yeah.
There is a small muscle here. It's called pyramidalis muscle.
Okay.
It originates from anterior surface of pubis and insert to this white line. What is this white line called? Linea alba. Yeah?
Yeah.
This muscle is very small and triangular in shape, and it's absent in 20% of the people.
Okay.
Okay, so what are the muscles of abdominal wall? External oblique, internal oblique,
transverse
abdominis. So they are anterolaterally or laterally. We have muscular part anteriorly. We have aponeurosis part. Which muscles do we have anteriorly? Rectus abdominis, and here down, what do we have? Pyramidalis muscle. Clear?
Yes.
Let's go to the fascia. Okay. Look, here the first layer that you see is the skin.
Yes.
We have different fascias in the abdominal wall or cavity. First, we have superficial fascia, which is the same as subcutaneous tissue, fat here.
Okay.
Then we have deep fascia. What does deep fascia do?
It's keep the muscles like...
Exactly. So superficial fascia, it's under the skin. Deep fascia, it's also called investing fascia. It's around the muscles.
Yes.
Then, after that, before we reach the organs, do you remember which fascia we had in thoracic cavity?
In the thoracic.
Very good. Now, in the abdomen, we have endo-abdominal fascia.
Okay.
Okay? And on the back, this is in the back, but thoracolumbar. Yeah, thoracolumbar fascia, it's posteriorly. It's where, do you remember we said the internal oblique? This is thoracolumbar fascia.
Yes.
Internal oblique originates from thoracolumbar fascia. Okay, so this is thoracolumbar on the back. Anteriorly, first we have superficial fascia, then we have deep fascia, which is around the muscles, and before we reach the organs, we have endo-abdominal fascia.
Okay.
Let's talk about these three. First, superficial fascia or subcutaneous tissue. This fascia in the abdominal wall has two layers, very important. The first layer is fat. It's called superficial fatty layer or Camper's fascia. Okay, you should know the Camper's.
Okay.
Then after this fatty, you have a membranous part under the fatty part. It's called deep membranous layer or a Scarpa's fascia.
Okay.
So superficial fascia is divided into two, fat and membrane. Fat, it's called Camper's. Membrane is called Scarpa's. Now look at here. Look.
Yes.
This is the superficial fascia, right?
Yes.
It has two parts. Do you see? This is fatty part or Camper.
Yes.
This is membranous part or Scarpa's. Yeah. The fatty layer, it continues with the other superficial fascia of the body. Do you see? The fatty part continue with the also fatty part of thorax, fatty part of pelvis.
Yes.
But the membranous part, when it goes inferiorly, it's, you learn later, it continues to the perineal region. It means this region as a perineal fascia. So fatty part goes down also, membranous part, when it goes down, it changes its name to perineal or coalesced fascia. Okay, clear?
Yes.
Let's go to the deep fascias. We said deep fascias, they go around the muscles, right?
Right.
What were our muscles here?
Here we have external and internal. No, sure. We have
External oblique, internal oblique, and then?
Transverse abdominalis.
Good. Transverse abdominis or transverse abdominalis. Now, the deep fascia, which goes around the muscles, it also is split into three layers.
Yes.
Superficial, intermediate, and deep.
Okay.
So, superficial one covers?
External
oblique. Intermediate one covers? Internal oblique. And deep one covers?
Transverse abdominal.
Very good. Transverse abdominis.
Okay.
Then, if we look at here, for example, do you see?
Yes.
This is posteriorly, this is anteriorly, this is laterally. Which muscle do we have first?
External.
Then?
Internal.
Then?
Transverse.
Yeah, which muscle do we have anteriorly?
Rectus.
Very good. So this is rectus abdominis. And do you see these ones laterally, they have muscular part. When they go anteriorly, it's just the aponeurotic part. Here is abdominal cavity. Before we reach the cavity, which fascia covers the cavity?
Endo-abdominal.
Very good. Endo-abdominal fascia. So it covers the internal aspect of abdominal wall.
Okay.
And when this fascia, do you see it's everywhere?
Yeah.
When this fascia, just here, it is in contact or internal to the transverse abdominis, it changed its name to transversalis fascia.
Okay.
So endo-abdominal fascia is everywhere inside the cavity.
Okay.
Okay? But where it is in contact or behind the transverse abdominis, it's changed its name to transverse fascia.
So transverse muscle is covered by two fascias, right?
Like it is covered by it's covered by a deep layer of deep fascia,
Yeah,
okay?
and transversalis
But
fascia.
look, this is the last muscle, the transverse abdominis.
Yes,
Here you see its fascia here and here.
yes,
Then behind it, it means this black line.
yeah,
It's endo-abdominal fascia.
okay,
Endo-abdominal fascia here change its name to transversalis fascia.
okay.
But in the other parts here, it's still called endo-abdominal fascia.
Okay.
You can also see in your book, it's also called here transversalis fascia. So this is the endo-abdominal fascia, if you see.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay, now look at here. First, we said what is the first layer? Skin.
Yes.
Skin. Then what do you have?
External.
Then you have superficial fascia, which is divided into fat and membrane. Do you see this yellow one?
Yes.
It's fatty layer,
right.
Campers,
Yeah.
and do you see this line?
Yes.
This is membranous layer, scarpas. Okay?
Yes.
What do we have after? We have muscles which are covered by deep fascia. What is the first muscle?
External oblique, internal
Which is
oblique.
covered by superficial layer
Yeah.
of deep fascia.
Yeah.
Then
we have the internal oblique, which is covered by intermediate deep fascia.
intermediate layer of deep fascia. Then we have transverse abdominis, which is covered by
deep layer of deep fascia.
very good. What do we have after? Endo-abdominal fascia.
But at the transverse muscles, it's called transversalis
fascia. Yeah. After endo-abdominal fascia, do you see here the yellow thing?
Yeah.
It's called extraperitoneal fat.
Okay.
And the last layer here, it's called peritoneum, parietal peritoneum.
Okay.
Do you remember we said we have three serous membrane, pleura, pericardium and peritoneum.
Yes.
And all of these, they have a parietal and visceral layer, right?
Yes.
Peritoneum, it has a parietal layer which covers everywhere in the abdominal cavity.
Yes.
And visceral layer, it goes around organs.
Okay.
Okay, so can you tell me the layers from outside till inside? Laterally, very laterally, because anteriorly is different, okay?
Okay.
Laterally, what is first?
First, connective like the connective tissue.
First you have skin.
Skin.
Yeah, then
superficial.
Then you have superficial fascia, which is divided into
campers and scarpas.
Yeah, what is camper?
What?
What is camper?
Camper is the fatty layer, and
Yeah.
scarpas is the membranous layer.
Yeah, what do we have after?
Then we have the deep fascia. We have the deep muscles.
Yeah, we have the muscles
muscles.
which are covered by deep fascia.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
after that, we have the endo-abdominal fascia.
Yeah, very good. What is this yellow one?
The yellow one, it's called extraperitoneal fascia.
Fat, yeah?
Then,
Or fascia, yeah?
Then peritoneal fascia.
Parietal peritoneum.
Yeah. And we have visceral peritoneum. It covers the organ.
Yeah, so it's enough if you tell me till parietal peritoneum. Now look, Abdullah.
Yes.
We said these muscles, we have them laterally. When they go anteriorly, we just have aponeurosis of these muscles, right?
So we have, instead of muscles, we have one layer.
We just have aponeurosis,
Yes,
okay?
okay.
So let's see what happens to this aponeurosis. What is this muscle here
Rectus.
anteriorly?
The rectus muscles.
Rectus abdominis. So do you see the aponeurosis of external oblique? They go anteriorly. to the rectus abdominis.
Yes.
The aponeurosis of internal oblique look is split into two. One layer go anteriorly, one layer go posteriorly.
Yes.
Then the aponeurosis of transverse abdominal, they go
Posteriorly.
posteriorly. So do you see here we have a layer around the rectus abdominis. This is called rectus sheath.
Okay. So rectus sheath is made up by aponeurosis.
Very good. We said the rectus sheath is formed by aponeurosis of the three lateral abdominal muscles. Aponeurosis of internal oblique is split into two lamina. One goes anteriorly, one goes posteriorly to the rectus abdominis.
Yes, yes.
Aponeurosis of external oblique join with anterior lamina of internal oblique.
Yes.
This is called anterior layer of rectus sheath.
Okay.
So what is anterior layer is aponeurosis of external oblique and anterior lamina of internal oblique.
Okay.
Then we have posterior layer of rectus sheath. Now you tell me, how is it formed?
Formed by the fascia around the internal abdominal oblique muscle.
It's formed by aponeurosis of internal oblique
and the transverse abdominalis.
Yeah, transverse abdominis. So now we have posterior layer of rectus sheath. So rectus sheath is the aponeurosis of muscles which goes around rectus abdominis.
Yes.
We have anterior layer of rectus sheath and posterior layer of rectus sheath.
Okay.
Okay? Now let me show you something. Look. Can you understand the difference between these two pictures?
No.
No? Look at here. Do you remember we went through layers?
Yes.
Do you see this is rectus abdominis?
Yeah.
It has anterior layer of rectus sheath and here is posterior layer of rectus sheath.
Yes.
In this picture, the picture below, do you see the posterior layer of rectus sheath?
No.
No. So there is somewhere in our body that all the three aponeuroses, they go anteriorly to the rectus abdominis. So we just have anterior layer of rectus sheath. We don't have posterior layer of rectus sheath.
Like why?
Here it's called arcuate line. It's 2 fingers below the umbilicus. Okay?
Okay.
So look, if I want to show in the body.
So like you mean superiorly we have two anterior and posterior, but in the inferior part we have only anterior, right?
Exactly. So here at the level of here is anterior superior iliac spine, right?
Yes.
Somewhere here, if you connect these two, it's 2 fingers below the umbilicus.
Yes.
So when you are here, all the aponeuroses go anteriorly to the rectus abdominis.
Yes.
So posterior layer of rectus sheath is missing.
Yes.
This is called arcuate line.
Okay.
So it's where you don't have any posterior layer of rectus sheath. And it's 2 fingers below the umbilicus.
Okay.
Okay, what is in the rectus sheath? What is here in the rectus sheath? Which muscle do you see?
Rectus abdominalis.
You see rectus abdominis, and if you go below, you see pyramidalis if it is present. Okay?
Yeah.
What else do we have here? What do you think?
This is the ligament. We have the ligament.
We have the nerves,
Yeah, nerves.
intercostal nerves.
Yeah.
And do you remember which artery goes down?
Internal thoracic.
Internal thoracic, somewhere here, split into musculophrenic and
superior epigastric.
Very good. Superior epigastric goes down.
Yes.
And from below, we say later, where do you get this artery from? You have inferior epigastric.
Okay.
So in rectus sheath, we have rectus abdominis and superior and inferior epigastric vessels, arteries and veins.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Now look at here. We said around the rectus abdominis, we have anterior and posterior layer of rectus sheath.
Okay.
Then these two layers exactly in the midline, do you see here?
Yeah, they
join each other. So just in the midline, there is somewhere that anterior and posterior layer of rectus sheath on both sides meet, and there is no muscle here. This is called linea alba. It means alba, it means white line.
Okay.
So where is linea alba? It's where the anterior and posterior layer of rectus sheath on both sides meet. Do you see this white line here?
Yes.
This is called linea alba.
Okay.
Okay?
Alright.
It's around like 1 centimeter wide, and it's run vertically from xiphoid process till pubic symphysis.
Okay.
Okay, and it's a good place for laparotomy. Do you know what is laparotomy? When they want to open the abdominal cavity, it's good to open from here, because here there are a few blood vessels and there is no muscle here.
Okay.
So it's good to cut from here.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
If it is clear, now I want you to tell me some things. We have different layers. Laterally, you have these layers.
Yes.
Anteriorly, you have these layers.
Yeah.
But then it's different if you're above the arcuate line or below the arcuate line.
Yes.
And in the midline, you have these layers, here and here.
Yes.
Let's do them one by one. First, laterally. Can you tell me the layers?
Skin.
Yeah?
Superficial fascia.
Yeah?
Then we have the muscles covered by deep fascia.
Very good. Yeah? Then?
We have the endo-abdominal.
Very good.
Then we have the peritoneum.
Extra peritoneal fat, then parietal peritoneum.
Yes.
Very good. Now let's go to the anteriorly, above the arcuate line. Okay. What do you see first?
Skin.
Then?
Superficial.
Yeah.
Then we have the anteriorly, we have the aponeurosis.
How do you call these? It's called anterior layer of rectus sheath.
Yeah, anterior layer of rectus sheath. It's made
Then
of...
you have?
Rectus.
Rectus abdominis muscle.
Yeah.
Then you have?
The posterior rectus sheath.
Very good. Then the rest is the same. You have?
Yeah, external peritoneum and...
then you have endo-abdominal fascia.
Yeah.
So do you see the aponeurosis of transverse? It's formed posterior layer of rectus sheath. Then you have endo-abdominal fascia, then extraperitoneal fat, then parietal peritoneum.
Yes.
Clear?
Yes.
This is above the arcuate line. What about below the arcuate line? Tell me.
Laterally, there is no difference.
No, laterally, no difference.
Yeah, anteriorly, we have anteriorly, like we don't have the posterior rectus sheath, right?
So what? Yeah. So what do you have after rectus abdominis?
We have endo-abdominal, then
very good,
external
peritoneum. So below the arcuate line, after recto abdominis, we have endo-abdominal fascia.
Yes.
Or transverse fascia. So no posterior layer of rectus sheath, right?
Yes.
What about in the middle? Can you tell me the layers?
Skin.
Yeah.
Then linea alba.
Then you have superficial fascia, which is and then linea alba. Very good.
Then
all the aponeurosis. Then we have
endothoracic. Abdominal, sorry.
Yeah.
Then external peritoneal, then parietal peritoneal.
Extraperitoneal fat. Pronounce them correctly.
Yeah.
Then you have parietal peritoneal.
All right.
Clear?
Yes.
Very good. Now, if it is clear, I'm gonna ask you some questions. Let me check in my book what's the name of the pictures.
I want to ask you, when you say the book, you say like the atlas, right?
Yeah, atlas.
Yeah,
I checked the names in the atlas. Okay, here. Anterior abdominal wall deep dissection. Okay. Here.
Yes.
Now let's see the things that we studied, okay?
Alright.
What is this first layer which is cut?
External oblique muscle.
Yeah, what is this?
Internal oblique muscle.
Very good. What is this?
Transverse abdominal.
Abdominis muscle. What is this muscle?
Rectus abdominis.
Very good. What is this white thing?
White thing. This is the aponeurosis of the
How do you call
lateral
this?
rectus sheath. Anterior
Layer of rectus sheath. Very good. What is the one which goes behind?
Posterior rectus sheath.
Very good. And do you see in the rectus sheath you have rectus abdominis? These are called superior and inferior epigastric vessels.
Yes.
Arteries and veins. What is this white one here? This.
This one? This is the posterior one.
Very good. Very good. What is this?
Which one?
Here. Here, this one.
Is it the endo-abdominal?
Very good. Endo-abdominal fascia. It's
Yes.
behind the posterior layer, right?
Yes.
This is endo-abdominal. And what is this fat? Extraperitoneal fat.
Yeah, extraperitoneal.
Now look at here, Abdullah. Do you see this line here?
Yeah.
Till here, you see the posterior ablectus sheath. But
Okay.
after this, do you see posterior layer?
So this one, the arcuate line.
Very good. So after here, this is arcuate line. It's 2 fingers below the umbilicus.
Again.
And you don't have the posterior layer because these inferior epigastric vessels from below can also enter the rectus sheath and give up anastomosis with the other vessels.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
So now let's go inside. Now we cut the extraperitoneal fat, then we reach parietal peritoneum. So we go deep.
Okay.
Okay? Anterior abdominal wall, internal view. Okay, now look at this picture. Now we're looking from inside, okay?
Okay.
So look, here, this is your diaphragm,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
And these are the muscles. These are the layers that we said: skin, superficial fascia, external oblique, internal oblique, transverse fascia, endo-abdominal fascia, extraperitoneal fan. And what is this layer? This is parietal peritoneum, right?
Yep.
Okay, you're looking from inside.
Yes.
But in the cadaver, they like cut it from top, like they cut it from here.
Yes.
Okay. So what is this? This is parietal peritoneum.
Okay.
Here in the parietal peritoneum, you see 5 folds. They'll call 5 peritoneal folds.
Okay.
Look, one fold, one elevation is here, almost.
Okay.
Two, second one is here.
Okay.
Then you have two on the other side, here and here.
Okay.
And one in the middle.
Okay.
They are called umbilical folds. We have two lateral, two medial, and one median umbilical fold.
Okay.
The median umbilical fold is elevation of peritoneum in the midline.
Okay.
And under this fold, there is a ligament. It's called median umbilical ligament. So you have a ligament which is covered by parietal peritoneum. That's why you have this elevation.
Okay.
But what is this ligament? This is an embryologic remnant of urachus. Urachus is something that connects the urinary bladder. Do you know what is urinary bladder?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, urinary bladder to umbilicus. Okay? So median umbilical fold, it's between urinary bladder and umbilicus, and under the fold we have median umbilical ligament, which is remnant of urachus.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
Sure?
Yes, yes.
Then on the sides we have medial umbilical fold.
Okay.
This covers medial umbilical ligament. This ligament is embryologic remnant of umbilical artery. So two umbilical arteries now obliterated, they go away, they're not functional.
Okay.
And we have umbilical ligament.
Okay.
Okay? Clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Then we have two lateral umbilical fold. Do you see here? This is really tiny. Do you see?
Yes, yes.
These are because of inferior epigastric vessels. Do you remember in the rectus sheet we said we have inferior epigastric vessels? When peritoneum covers these vessels, we have lateral umbilical folds. So they're not embryologic remnant. We have these vessels.
So the inferior epigastric, they are anterior or posterior? Or both?
They're anteriorly. What do you mean posterior? You know, we went through layers by layers, right? After extraperitoneal fat, we have peritoneum.
Okay. But we have two peritoneum. We have at the anterior and we have at the posterior.
Now we're anteriorly.
Okay.
You mean posteriorly, you mean toward the vertebral column?
Yes.
No, we're here. Urinary bladder is somewhere here,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So we're anteriorly.
Okay.
And in the peritoneum, here we have some folds. In the middle, we have median umbilical fold, which is median umbilical ligament, which is remnant of urachus.
Yes, urachus.
Medially, we have medial umbilical ligaments on both sides. This is remnant of umbilical artery. Laterally, we have lateral umbilical folds, which is elevation because of inferior epigastric vessels which run toward the rectus sheath.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
Sure?
Yes, yes.
Between these folds, do you see when you have elevations, then between them you have depressions, you have fossa.
Yes.
So we have different fossas. They're called peritoneal fossa.
Okay.
We have above urinary bladder vesicle. If you hear vesicle, it means urinary bladder. Above urinary bladder, we have supravesical fossa. Do you see right and left?
Okay.
On each side of which fold?
The median.
Yeah, on each side of median, or between median and medial. So here and here. This is supravesical fossa.
Okay.
Then we have medial inguinal fossa. It's here and here. Between which folds?
between the median and lateral.
Medial and lateral fold, yeah. So this is called medial inguinal fossa. Then we have lateral inguinal fossa here and here.
Yes.
It's lateral to the lateral fold.
Okay.
Okay? So we have supravesical fossa, medial inguinal fossa, and lateral inguinal fossa. 6 fossa.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you now something. We finished with the wall. We're gonna go through some clinicals. Have you heard about inguinal ring, superficial ring, deep ring, inguinal region, inguinal hernia? Have you heard about this?
No.
No?
No.
In lower limb last year?
No.
Sure, it was a topic. Okay, so let's go through. Here, inside the abdominal cavity, do you see the medial inguinal fossa here?
Yes.
It represents the inner aspect of superficial ring. I will tell you what is superficial ring, okay?
Okay.
And lateral inguinal, so this was medial. Lateral fossa here,
Yeah.
it represents the deep inguinal ring.
Okay.
So somewhere here we have deep ring, okay?
Okay.
And somewhere here we have inner aspect of superficial ring.
Okay.
Let's see what are they. Let me find a picture in your book. Okay, inguinal canal. Let's see in this drawing. Okay?
Okay.
Is it good?
Yes.
Okay, now look at here. Inguinal region, it's between. So do you see this region?
Yes.
Between anterior superior iliac spine to pubic tubercle. Somewhere here, this is called inguinal region.
Okay.
It is important region because anatomically the structures they go and exit from abdominal cavity to pelvic cavity.
Okay.
And clinically it's a place for hernia. I will tell you what hernia is.
Okay.
First, look at here. We have something which is called inguinal ligament. Inguinal ligament. Do you remember the attachments of inguinal ligament?
We said the pubic symphysis
Yeah?
and the tubercle. Yeah, superior iliac spine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's from anterior superior iliac spine to pubic tubercle. Okay? This inguinal ligament is also called Poupart's ligament.
Okay.
You should know its other name.
Okay.
But how is it formed?
We just said the.
But how is it? What is this ligament?
I don't know.
Yeah, look, which muscle it is?
External.
External oblique. Do you see?
Yes. Oh, is it from the aponeurosis like the? No.
Yeah? So what does it? What happens? The aponeurosis of external oblique, they get thicker inferiorly.
Okay.
Okay, so it's thickened inferior margins of aponeurosis of external oblique.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And do you see when you have the aponeurosis of external oblique, like they go into two directions. Some of the fibers, they go deep. You don't see them. When they go deep, they form inguinal ligament.
Okay.
Okay? When they come superficially, like here, they split. Do you see?
Yeah.
And they form like an opening.
Okay.
This is called, here there is an opening. It's called superficial inguinal ring.
Okay.
So what happens? The aponeurosis of external oblique, when they go inferiorly, they form some of the fibers, they form inguinal ligament.
Okay.
And some of the fibers, they come superficially and split into medial and lateral crus.
Okay.
And here they form an opening. Do you see this opening?
Yeah.
It's called superficial inguinal ring.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
What about the inguinal ligament? What is its other name?
I don't remember it. You said it.
Poupart's ligament.
Full parts.
If you look at these ligaments, some of its fibers attach to the superior pubic ramus. Do you see?
Yes.
And it's called lacunar ligament or gimbernut ligament.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
And some of the fibers are along the pecten pubis here.
Okay.
And they're called pectineal ligament or Cooper's ligament.
Okay.
So we have inguinal or Poupart ligament, which some of the fibers form lacunar ligament and some of the fibers form pectineal ligament.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Then we have something which is called inguinal canal. Do you know what is inguinal canal?
No.
It's an oblique canal which goes from here
Yes.
till here. So the canal is superiorly, posteriorly, and laterally.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And it goes inferiorly, anteriorly, and medially.
Okay.
Did you understand?
Yes.
Sure?
Yeah.
Let me show you something. Do you see me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the canal is deep here.
Yeah.
It's superiorly deep
Yeah.
and laterally. It's laterally.
Okay.
And superiorly and deep.
Okay.
Then it goes like that.
Yeah.
It comes inferiorly, superficially, and it's medially.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes. Yes.
So we have a canal which is from here to here. Do you see? It's superiorly, laterally, and it's more deeper. It comes inferiorly, medially, and it's more superficial.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Here the canal has one inlet, one outlet.
Okay.
The inlet or the entrance of the canal, it's somewhere here. It's called deep inguinal ring.
Okay.
And the exit of the canal is called
Superficial.
very good, superficial inguinal ring. How is superficial inguinal ring formed with aponeurosis? Which muscles split?
External.
External oblique. Now look at the deep ring. Do you see these lines?
Yes.
This is deep ring, okay?
Yeah.
Which muscle is this one?
The transverse.
Very good. So now it's the transverse abdominis which is split and it forms an opening. This is deep ring.
Okay.
So deep ring is because of the splitting of transverse abdominis. Superficial ring is because of external oblique.
Yes.
Between these two, there is a canal. It's called inguinal canal.
Yes.
And the canal goes from superiorly, laterally, and deep into inferiorly, medially, and superficial.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Clear?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. if you want to talk about borders of the canal, here there is a canal. What do you have anteriorly? Anteriorly, you have this. It's aponeurosa. Which muscle?
External oblique muscle.
Very good. What do you have posteriorly? You have this. It's which muscle?
Transverse abdominalis.
Yeah. If you want to talk about roof is all of these, right?
Yes.
So what are these? Which muscle it is?
It's the anterior laterally abdominal muscles.
Yeah, so first you have transverse,
Yes.
fascia, then you have internal oblique and transverse abdominals, then you have aponeurosa of external oblique. So you see all of these on roof.
Yes.
What is floor? Floor is bone. Which bone?
The iliac, if that.
Which bone?
The iliac or
No.
pubic bone, yes, yes.
Yeah,
the
pubic bone. Which part? So inferiorly, we said inguinal ligament, it's from here to here, right?
Yes,
So inferiorly, you have these bones, parts of pubic bone.
yes, yes.
Iliopubic crest, lacunal ligament, it's somewhere here. And you have inguinal ligament, right?
Okay. Do we have a lot of bones in this control and ligaments?
What?
Do we have a lot of bones and ligaments and these
For
things?
the bones, you have to know the pelvic girdle, all of this. We go through in the pelvis, when we start pelvis.
Yeah, this is easy. This.
Yeah, so we have to go through this.
Okay.
Okay, now what are we talking about? We're talking about superficial ring, which is the fibers of aponeurosa of external oblique, which opens, they form an opening. Deep ring are the fibers of transverse abdominis, which they form an opening, right?
Right.
Between these two, there is a canal. It's called inguinal canal.
Yes.
What is inside this canal? What do we need? It should be something which goes from abdomen to pelvis or from pelvis to abdomen. So it makes a connection between pelvic cavity and abdominal cavity, right?
Yes.
Just learn it now. We talked about it later. Do you know what is this? This is testis.
Yes.
And here, this is called a spermatic cord.
Okay.
Testis, during development, it develops in the abdominal cavity.
Okay.
And it descends down through this canal into its original place.
Okay.
So in the inguinal canal, if there is a male, we have a spermatic cord.
Okay.
If it is female, we have round ligament of uterus.
Okay.
Okay? We also have some nerves and blood vessels.
Okay.
I tell you a clinical now.
Okay.
If the testes remain in the abdominal cavity and cannot go through this canal into its original place, it's called mal-descent of testis. Mal-descent, it means it could not descend, it could not go down.
Okay.
Its clinical word is cryptorchidis. Cryptorchidis is when the testis remains in the canal and cannot go to its original place, so they should send it down surgically.
Okay.
Okay?
Alright.
Now, let's talk about hernia. What is hernia? You know, here, these rings and this canal, they are weak points in the abdominal cavity.
Yes.
What does it mean? If the pressure in abdominal cavity is a lot, the small intestine, do you know what is the small intestine?
Yes, yes.
Can protrude into these rings and this canal and opens or come out in the thigh, in the leg, in the thigh.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? So this is called hernia.
Yeah, if that.
Have you seen?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I showed you a hernia.
In Iranian, you call it ifta, right? Ifta.
Huh?
What do you call it in Iranian? We call it, I think, the same thing. Ifta.
Ifta?
Nothing. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, I think this is what you say. I don't know the Irani's name, sorry. It's called, I think this is what you say, something like
Because Amir told us once like it's the same.
Yeah, what is it? Say it again.
Iftak.
It's not iftak, it's I don't know the Persian name.
No problem.
But do you see this small
Yes.
intestine
Yes, yes.
comes and open into the
Thigh.
thigh? Okay, now we have two types of hernia. We have direct and indirect inguinal hernia.
Okay.
Okay, first let's see what is direct inguinal hernia. If the hernia or if the small intestine break all these walls and fascia and comes out directly out from superficial ring, this is called direct inguinal hernia.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
What is indirect? The small intestine goes to the deep ring,
Okay.
then to the canal, do you see?
Yeah.
And then to the superficial ring. So this is called indirect inguinal hernia.
Okay.
So direct, it's when it breaks the walls and goes directly out from superficial ring.
Yes.
So it doesn't go to the canal. Indirect, it goes to the entrance of the canal, which is deep ring.
Yes.
Then to the canal, then to this is indirect. Do you see? Goes to the canal, then to superficial ring. So this is called indirect inguinal hernia.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes, yes.
So then how do we know that the hernia is direct or indirect? Do you remember in this picture, I told you if you are in medial inguinal fossa here,
Yeah.
this is the represent the deep part of superficial ring.
Yeah.
Lateral inguinal fossa here, it represents the deep ring.
Yeah.
So do you see the inferior epigastric vessels?
Yes.
Deep ring is here, lateral to the epigastric vessels.
Okay.
Look. This is deep ring, this is epigastric vessels,
Okay.
lateral to epigastric vessels.
So if it's direct, it's gonna affect the blood flow in the epigastric.
If it is direct, if you put, anyway, it comes out from superficial ring, right?
Okay, right.
You put your finger into the superficial ring and go up.
Okay.
Then just imagine your finger is here. It's in which fossa? If it is medial to the epigastric vessels, it is in which fossa? This is epigastric, is here.
It's medial fossa.
Medial fossa. So it means which rings open into here?
Deep.
No.
Superficial.
Deep
Superficial.
Yes, superficial. So if it opens here, it means the a small intestine, it's not in the canal, it breaks directly through here.
Yes, yes, yes.
So how do you know? You feel the pulse of epigastric vessels lateral to your finger. Then you know your finger is here.
Okay.
This is direct.
Okay.
Then if you put your finger into here and it goes into this fossa, lateral fossa,
Yeah.
it means which ring do we have in lateral fossa?
Deep.
Deep ring.
Yeah.
So it means you're
It's
in
indirect.
lateral fossa.
Yeah,
So
indirect.
what happens? You feel the pulse of epigastric vessels medial to your finger.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
If it is clear, explain.
We put our finger
From?
from the place of hernia, like the outside.
Yeah, exactly.
We go
Superficial
back.
ring. Then
Yeah,
if we are in medial inguinal fossa, you feel the pulse of the blood vessels
Lateral.
lateral to your finger.
Yeah.
So it means, is it direct hernia or indirect?
Direct.
Direct, it means it breaks here directly.
Yes.
If it goes into lateral fossa, you feel the pulse of the blood vessels.
Medially.
Medial, it means you're in
Indirect.
lateral fossa. So it goes to the canal, deep ring,
deep
canal,
ring.
then superficial ring. So this is indirect hernia.
Yes, yes.
Okay, clear?
Yes.
Okay. And you know, here, if you're in lateral fossa, where is your weak point? Is the deep ring, right?
Yes.
The weak point is the deep ring because it can go the intestine to the deep ring, then to the canal, then superficial ring.
Okay.
But if you're in medial inguinal fossa, where is our weak point? Our weak point is a triangle which is called Hasselbalch triangle.
Okay.
Okay, this triangle, it's somewhere here. It's between inguinal ligament, rectus abdominis, and inferior epigastric vessels.
Okay.
So if it is direct hernia, it goes to Hasselbalch triangle or inguinal triangle, break the walls directly and come out from superficial ring.
Okay.
If it is indirect, goes to deep ring, inguinal canal, then superficial ring.
Okay.
Ask me again if it is a question, if it is something you didn't understand.
No, it's okay.
You should understand 100%.
Yeah.
Sure?
Yes.
Let's see if we can find a... Okay, somewhere here. So do you see this is in medial fossa?
Yeah.
And here you have Hasselbalch triangle. It's between inguinal ligament, rectus abdominis, and somewhere here we have inferior epigastric vessels.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
So next time I ask you, what is direct hernia, what is indirect hernia, what is the difference, what is the weak point in direct hernia? So it's the Hasselbalch triangle. What is the weak point is indirect hernia. You have deep ring, right?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is it? Are you writing or you're not listening?
I'm listening, but I'm not writing.
Sure?
Yeah.
Did you understand what I said?
Yes.
Sure, okay. Now let's go to subinguinal hiatus. Do you remember these from lower limb?
I don't remember anything.
No? Okay, it's okay. Okay. Let me find a picture in the book, it's better. Okay, here. So we talked about inguinal region, inguinal canal, and inguinal hernia, right?
Yes.
Here, this is inguinal ligament, which forms pectineal ligament and lacunar or gimbernut ligament. Do you see?
Yes.
Between the inguinal ligament and pubic bone, do you remember the pubic?
Yes.
There is a space exactly under the inguinal ligament. It means here.
Okay.
This is called subinguinal hiatus.
Okay.
So what do you have superiorly? Inguinal ligament. What do you have inferiorly? You have parts of pubic bone.
Yes.
The ramus, tubercle, eminence.
Yeah.
This part which you see under the ligament, it's divided into 3 compartments. Here, laterally, we have lacuna musculonervosa. Musculonervosa. It means a muscle and a nerve.
Okay.
Lacuna vasorum. It's the middle part. Do you know what is vasorum? Blood vessels.
Blood vessels.
Yeah. And medially, we have lacuna lymphatica. You have lymph vessels.
Yes.
So the subinguinal hiatus divided into 3: lacuna musculonervosa, lacuna vasorum and lacuna lymphatica.
Okay.
In lacuna musculonervosum, you have a muscle and a nerve. What is your muscle? What is this muscle? Iliopsoas.
Okay.
Right? I tell you later. Just memorize it. Now we will say in pelvis. What is iliopsoas? What is the nerve? What are these? Femoral nerve and femoral artery, femoral vein.
Okay.
So, musculonervosa muscle is iliopsoas. What is your nerve? Femoral nerve.
Yeah.
Vacuna vasorum, blood vessels. Which blood vessels?
Femoral artery and vein.
Very good. Lacuna lymphatica, lymph vessels. You know, we have the biggest lymph nodes of our body here, Rosenmuller lymph nodes.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No.
No?
No.
So let's see. We saw the abdominal wall. Let's see the blood vessels and arteries of abdominal wall.
Okay.
Nerves of anterior abdominal wall. Which nerves do we have? What do you think?
We have this intercostal nerve.
Very good. We have intercostal nerves from T7 to T12. 12 one is called subcostal, right?
Okay, yes.
Which they give muscular branch, anterior and lateral cutaneous branch. We have two other nerves which I tell you later. They're called ilioinguinal and iliohypogastric. Maybe you see next time in the cadaver. They are also the nerves of an abdominal wall.
Okay.
Okay? We say later where you get them from lumbar plexus. Look, do you see here?
Yes.
You have iliohypogastric, do you see?
Yes.
And ilioinguinal. You get it from L1, first lumbar nerve.
Okay.
So we have T7 to T12, then we have L1. L1 gives you ilioinguinal and iliohypogastric. Okay? Which arteries do we have?
We have the superior and inferior epigastric arteries.
Very good. Where do you get superior epigastric artery from?
Internal thoracic artery.
Exactly. Look, so we have here superior epigastric, which is a branch of internal thoracic, and lateral, it is musculophrenic, right? It also gives some branches here laterally.
Yes.
And then we have inferior epigastric,
Yeah.
which is a branch of, do you know?
Superior lumbar.
No, it's from external iliac. I tell you later, okay? And then we also have some branches of femoral artery.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
What are our veins? Same. Superior epigastric and inferior epigastric vein, right? We will go through arteries and veins more detail later. Just know here we have superior and inferior epigastric vessels which are in rectus sheath.
Okay.
Okay? So we finished today.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Sure?
Yes.
And when do you want your next lesson?
I don't know.
Can have it Friday and Sunday, or Wednesday and Friday, or Wednesday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday. But you should read this first, Abdullah. For this self-control, I ask you every time.
Okay, but you know I have histo on Friday.
Friday when?
2 p.m.
Should we have the lesson Friday then? Like Friday 6 p.m.?
No, I don't want to take it on Friday because on Friday evening I have with Amir. I'll take it on Wednesday.
Wednesday before your histo.
It's on a Friday.
Yeah, but don't you want to study for histo?
At morning, do you have like time at morning?
Wednesday morning?
Yes.
Like 11?
Okay, because I don't go to school on Wednesday, so...
No, okay. So 11.
Yes.